Welcome to the Economy Magazine. I'm Benjamin Chong Alfares with a look at the world economy coming up. 4 years following Fukushima, Japanese tourism is booming. Computers become kids' play in London. And Cuban fixers may finally get the push they need. First, the headlines. China lowered its 2015 economic growth target to approximately 7% on Thursday as authorities seek a more sustainable path. Beijing also lowered its target for annual inflation to around 3%, Premier Li Keqiang said at the opening of the annual National People's Congress. China seeks to rebalance the economy, steering it away from major investment projects to make consumer spending the key engine for expansion. Slower growth is expected as a byproduct of the transformation and is hoped to result in a more sustainable economic model.
Over the past year, my country's development has faced a serious and complicated international and internal environment. With great difficulty, the global economy has seen recovery, and the main economic groups have taken divergent paths. Domestically, downward economic pressure continues to increase, and we face many interconnected difficulties and challenges.
Oil prices will stay low for the time being, the chief executive of ExxonMobil said, as U.S. shale production is more resilient than many people had expected. ExxonMobil will slash capital spending by 12% this year in an effort to cut costs, even while increasing its oil production by 7%. Exxon's planned capital spending cut is in line with the reduction planned by Chevron, the second largest U.S. oil group, but smaller than the 20% drop announced by BP. Production in the shale gas industry continues to grow, even as prices and the number of drilling wells dropped sharply. The same companies that cut costs and increased oil production are often involved in shale or tight oil as well. The huge number of migrants crossing the Mediterranean is putting the shipping industry close to breaking point, UN agency chiefs warned. The shipping industry will honor the maritime tradition to rescue people who are in distress at sea, but wants states to take more responsibility. In 2014, it rescued more than 170,000 people, while more than 650 merchant vessels were diverted. The Secretary General of the International Chamber of Shipping said governments have an obligation to provide search and rescue services which are adequate to the problem.
With that number of migrants rushing through this water, it is clearly coming to the breaking point for the shipping industry. But nevertheless, I think the shipping industry will continue to act as rescuers for the people.
Zimbabwe's tobacco farmers protested the first auction of the selling season over low prices for one of the country's major industries. The first bale to go under the hammer sold at $3.50 per kilogram, a price farmers said was too low after expecting around $5. Tobacco farming is a major employer in Zimbabwe and one of the country's most important industries, accounting for 29% of total exports. A late onset of rain delayed planting, resulting in poor crop establishment and unevenness throughout the tobacco growing areas of Zimbabwe.
The prices are not pleasing. Tobacco of this type, if it's bought at $2 per kilogram, will I go back to the field? I'm not in debt, and I have school-age children, and they won't be able to go back to school on time.
The 2011 earthquake and tsunami disaster laid waste Japan's tourism industry as it killed thousands and sparked the worst nuclear crisis in a generation. But 4 years later, tourism is bouncing back, shattering expectations on visitor numbers largely owing to the weak yen and fading fears about the fallout from Fukushima #1. i24 News journalist Daniel Roth brings us the report.
In 2011, an earthquake and subsequent tsunami left the Japanese coast shattered, killing thousands and breaking open the Fukushima nuclear plant, the worst radioactive disaster in years. It then left the country's tourism industry in shambles. Now largely due to the weak yen, and with 4 years of time between the disaster and visitors' consciousness, the sector is on an upswing.
I think that people understand that traveling, eating, and even living in Japan is not a problem, as long as you avoid a very limited area around the Fukushima nuclear plant.
Tokyo hosted nearly 13.5 million international tourists last year, twice as much as in 2011, and well on their way to the number they aim for when they host the Olympics in 2020, according to the AFP report.
After the Olympics, we plan to go beyond our 20 million tourist objective. To put it simply, I think we are going towards similar levels to those of the UK or Turkey, which both welcomed around 30 million tourists a year.
Perhaps more important is the weakening of the yen. Since 2013, the yen has dropped 20% in relation to the euro and twice that in relation to the dollar. The government's Abenomics program is playing its part in driving up export and bringing in tourists.
We looked on the internet and we saw that it was cheaper than it used to be and more affordable. We thought, let's not mess around, let's go.
The fact that we got 100 yen for only 85 US cents was a big factor. It helps with the shopping.
Helped in large part by a rise in regional tourism and a growing middle class in places like China, Taiwan, and South Korea, Japan may see 15 million visitors this year, a significant number, though notably well behind world tourism leader France, which hosts 80 million visitors per year.
Computers become kids' play with a new workshop offering the increasingly computer-savvy younger generations a chance to build their own. The following report takes us to London, England, where coding classes this year became compulsory for kids nationwide.
Technology that's real child's play. Inside this small box are computer parts, assembled in just a few simple steps, intended for all children and not just technological whiz kids.
When I opened the box, I said it's going to be very, very hard to do it. I thought there would be wires and stuff. Also wires and mini pieces of headphones and all this stuff. But when I opened it, me and Faisal worked together and eventually we finished it in about 5-10 minutes.
At this fab lab in central London, they're assembling a kit developed by British startup Kano that at €100 a pop is more affordable than most PCs. Instructors are on hand to guide the kids through the process, step by step.
So it's all about making the kids work things out for themselves. So we try to encourage problem solving. That's why they work in pairs. So if you've got a problem, you've got a partner that can probably work it out for you. And then if you get really stuck, you can then talk to the other people. So everyone's doing the same thing. Everyone's facing the same problems. So they can help each other out.
Once assembled, the children then need to learn how to make it work, like installing software and coding.
I think we see so much technology around it, it's changing everything we do, and rather than being driven by technology, it's good to be aware of how it works so actually we can use it and develop it going forward and not just be, as you say, a consumer.
The British government has already recognised how vital digital skills are to these children's future. Since the beginning of this school year, computer programming became a compulsory subject for all pupils of the United Kingdom.
After half a century lacking basic goods, many Cubans have become experts at fixing devices and cars long past their prime. And as a U.S. embargo may be relaxed pending a reconciliation with the United States, these self-made entrepreneurs may finally get the break they need to get ahead.
Nothing here is replaced, only repaired. Since Cuba's austere years of economic crisis in the 1990s, Cubans have had to find creative solutions to make up for the lack of new goods under the strain of the US embargo.
Everything's recycled, everything can be repaired, and with anything that can be a bit difficult, we put a patch on it, glue or sew it, and it's fine.
These street fixers have become part of the communist island's landscape. Shoes, umbrellas, bags, mattresses, and even disposable lighters. Anything can be fixed when left in their expert care. And if they lack spare parts or equipment, where there's a will, there's a way.
I brought this camshaft from Argentina. Well, not that one, a different one. It only lasted a week because it was poor quality, so I was forced to be inventive until I managed to create this piece myself. It's amazing. Sometimes I can't even believe it myself.
But with the announcement of a rapprochement with the United States and the relaxation of the US embargo that kept Cuba in a stranglehold for more than 5 decades, things could start to look up for these entrepreneurs.
There is a clear proposal to facilitate imports for the economic sector, both cooperatives and private workers.
For contractors like Raul, this would mean they would finally be able to source high-quality goods, boosting their businesses and perhaps one day their living conditions too.
And now for a look at some other newsworthy items in Media Watch with Daniel Roth. Daniel Roth.
How's it going?
You're here.
I am here.
So, the first thing we're going to talk about is your status, right? You're single, are you?
Yes, no, I am not, but people across Europe, the world are, and the first story is about Tinder. Tinder just opened up Tinder Plus in Europe, which is a service. Tinder, first of all, is a dating app, just for our viewers who don't know. Basically, you swipe one way to say I don't like this person, and swipe the other way.
It's nice.
Swipe them
off.
A very nice
swipe them off.
It's but so they're opening up Tinder Plus, which is a paid service. It's a free app. It's a paid service, Tinder Plus, where you get to take back your decision about someone who you previously swiped one way. There's you get to spread your zone that you're looking for potential partners in. Yes, a sphere of influence, if you will. The thing is, though, that they're charging about 4 times more for users in their 30s who break the, I think age 28 is the mark. People who are in their 20s pay about £4, something like that in Europe, which is something like $6. Yeah, a month for the service. Users who are beyond their years in Tinder's view, people who are over 28, the ripe old age of 28, are going to be paying much more.
And old maids.
Yeah, old maids at the age of 28.
Bachelors.
But it's an interesting note. It's one of the ways that Tinder, that the world is saying, well, if you're 28 or over, if you're 30 or over, then your demand has gone down.
I was going to say, I mean, you could also maybe look at it as saying, well, on the one hand, maybe these people are presumed to no longer be dependent on their parents in an ideal world, which we do not live in, by the way. They probably have their good jobs and good salaries, and they can afford a little more. Yet on the other hand, you could say, well, these people, give them a break,
Yeah.
You've been out there looking for that person.
They've
for
already
the longest
invested
time.
heavily in the dating scene.
Invested heavily. Give them a break. Those people definitely should get, the ease of looking for their mate.
It's both of those things. Both views are true. Tinder has chosen the former. Of course, they've said, you know what? We'll take the view that brings us a little more money, and we'll see if it works. We'll see if people actually do pay more. The bet is that people who are getting older have been looking longer, and therefore will pay more.
Right. They're more desperate, so to speak.
Yeah. That's the bet, anyways.
Okay, well, from there, we go on to a different male-female story, correct?
Yes. The Washington Post is reporting there's an organization in the U.S. called Women on 20s, and they're talking about $20 bills. And the idea is to get Andrew Jackson off the $20 bill and get a woman on. And there's a list of about...
Not just a woman. I mean, we're seeing right now, actually.
Right,
Not just any woman.
This is... So Harriet Tubman is one of the 15.
That would be seriously, I mean... revolutionary.
It would be truly, truly amazing, particularly as the organization says, because Andrew Jackson was a president who, this matters less, but he wasn't someone who wanted paper money to be in circulation. He wanted people to use gold and silver coins. That's a small thing.
So why put it on the bill?
A larger thing is actually that he signed the Indian Removal Act of 1830, which essentially took... many people off their lands, Native Americans off their lands, and pushed them to Oklahoma. And so the women on the 20s are saying, not only did he not like bills, but he doesn't deserve to be on a bill. And there are all of these women who do deserve it.
Dealing with, he's no longer, so to speak, one of the people who we look up to, so to speak.
Right. And their aim is to get this done by 2020, which would be the 100-year mark after women got the right to vote. So if this happens, it's very exciting. They got people like Eleanor Roosevelt on this list, Harriet Tubman on this list, Rosa Parks on this list. The idea is to get more women out into the world, because onto bills, into the public sphere, particularly in the sphere of economics and finances, which is a place where
it obviously says a lot about the society you live in, but it also, I think, subliminally tells kids even that use the money, anyone, hey, this is what we consider to be normal. This is the norm.
This is normal. You too can strive to have your face on this bill.
Right.
You can be this famous, this important.
Okay.
And maybe Andrew Jackson isn't.
Right. Well, Daniel Roth, you definitely have told us what you think. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
That is the end of our edition today. The Economy Magazine, your daily source for economic and financial reports at i24 News. I'm Benjamin Chongafaras. Thanks for watching, and join us again next week for more.